What is up, Comic Book Nation? Connor Casey here, and today I am joined by one of the creators of Dark Side of the Ring. It's Evan Husney. Guys, the fourth season of Dark Side of the Ring drops on May 30th over on Vice. Evan, how you doing today?
Good, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here.
Of course, man. Glad to talk to you again. I've really enjoyed the show, especially through the first three seasons. But after season three, some rumors started popping up that maybe the show was getting canned. And I know you and Jason, you went on different podcasts. You were like, this isn't true. We're still making content. Tales from the Territories obviously came out. But
yeah,
what did you make of all of that in between the seasons?
It's always fun to me from a fan, like a wrestling fan perspective, to like now be a part of the wrestling rumor mill, if you will, and it's now I kind of see what a lot of the wrestlers go through, when like speculation kind of winds up snowballing into fact,
Sure.
And I think that's what was happening at that time. I think it was mainly because there wasn't like a follow-up green light of another season. And it was right in that time where we were trying to finish the deal for Tales from the Territories, because that was already like teed up as a show we wanted to do like well before, season three was like probably, I would say 30% the way through production.
Sure.
We had this opportunity. We've been developing it for years with $7 and, with Dwayne Johnson's crew. And we just wanted to make it. And I think it was somewhere in that line where it was like, okay, we had a controversial moment in season three. But then it's like when you start to think about like that doesn't make sense. Like if a show's doing well and it's like because it's controversial, it's going to be canceled. Like this doesn't make any sense. So I think it was like that rumor speculation kind of snowball effect that kind of led to a lot of people thinking, well, maybe it's canceled. I heard it's canceled. Unless there's something that I don't know, which maybe is possible. That was never the case. And, honestly, it was, yes, we could have, scaled our operation and hired other people to do Tales from the Territories, and we could have kept doing Dark Side or whatever. But, to us, we really wanted to focus all of our own personal attention on that and not try to do two things at once and then have like two subpar shows. Sure. So that was really, we just wanted to have, a little bit of a break. It's kind of like we'd done 3 albums and we wanted a side project, and now we're coming back for the 4th record,
Perfect. You mentioned the controversy of season 3, and I'm guessing you're talking about the plane ride from hell episode. Is that?
Yes.
That my guess?
Yeah. I mean, and I would assume, yeah.
Right. I remember the last time I talked to you guys was before season 3, and you kind of hinted at, yeah, you're gonna hear some stuff in that plane ride episode that you might not have been expecting, and you were right. But were you? What was your reaction to kind of the industry's response? You saw whether it was Flair, Dreamer. There was response to the episode. What did you make of all that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure if anybody, including those who were interviewed for the episode, and myself, and I think the people who worked on the show really felt that it would receive quite the reaction that it did. I think maybe again it was kind of like, we're all in this wrestling bubble, and we've heard this story so many times, that and there wasn't really anything super new to those who are like, I guess the smart hardcore fans who know that story. For me, it kind of revealed a lot about the process of us and as a documentary production, walking a line, if you will, with the wrestling community. I think that in the wrestling world, there is kind of this very black or white sort of binary look at how wrestling is portrayed in, media and in documentary form, or even in wrestling. It's like either you're putting somebody over or you're burying them, and there's no in between, and it's basically, I think folks can get, fans, wrestlers, etc., can get confused on the purpose of what we're trying to do, or other documentary series that are covering wrestling. We're just trying to tell the story of what happened. It's not our job to put somebody over or to bury anybody. That's not the way we go to work in the morning when we set out to do things. We're being led by the story, and the story that we're looking into, or how people are framing it for us on camera. And And so I think that was a real time where, it got pretty controversial. I think some people who were involved in the episode started to kind of walk back, from it, distance, from the from that. But to me, it was very eye opening in terms of like, that factor is like, this isn't, we're not making commercials here. We're not making a wrestling program. We're telling a story in a documentary.
Exactly. Now, as far as season 4, when you got the green light for this one, was the indication that this would be the last season? Is there still room for more? I know stuff's going on at Vice right now. What do you, is this it?
Yeah, I mean, no, sorry, I should say no. We definitely want to keep the show going. I mean, we love making the show, and we love telling these stories, and we found so much. Like with Tales from the Territories, we had such a fun time kind of just rediscovering our love, for the territory era, that kayfabe era. We just love that so much. And I think that's been that's kind of carried over into Dark Side 4. There's a lot of territory era stories, Magnum TA, Junkyard Dog, Adrian Adonis, you got all those. So that kind of definitely inspired that. So we're kind of, exploring that, and there's more to explore. I think, what you're reading about Vice right now, I think, the good news is, I mean, obviously I'm not like a official, someone who can comment on behalf of the company or anything, but from what's been explained to me, it's business as usual. Vice TV, the TV channel, the entity, that's a separate entity from Vice Media, so we're good to go, and we want to keep going. And we have plans to, and so, yeah.
Awesome. Now, when you guys announced the lineup for this season, the episode that immediately stuck out to me was Abdullah the Butcher, only because I immediately remembered, wait, they talked to him way back in season 1 for the Bruiser episode. When you guys were interviewing him then, did you think, we got to come back and talk to this guy again?
Sorry, which was that?
Abdullah, Abby, the Butcher?
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, okay. So, the Abdullah the Butcher experience on the pilot episode with Bruiser Brody was one of the wildest. Like, that was our first episode. We were green as grass in terms of working with wrestlers, being in over our heads. And it was like, I think Abdullah was the second or third interview we ever did for the show. So it was like immediate drop in the deep end of like, wrestling carny, like wrestling carny land. Right.
Yeah.
And it was unforgettable. I mean, the dude worked me, he hustled me for money. He saw right through me. It was incredible. It was an unforgettable experience. And so, yeah, we've always had an affection for Abby because of that. Like, he comes from a generation that it's just so legit, so when we got him back for Territories, it was kind of a nice, like, reinvigorating sort of catch up with him. I think we had learned a lot. I wasn't as intimidated with dealing with him, as I was before. I could kind of call him on some of his shit, here and there. And it was explained to me too that, he was really wanting to tell his story for the first time. Because when we met him that first time, he was so guarded, and kind of, blurring the lines between character and what his real story was. And he refused to even tell us anything about his real story. And so now he had come to this point, like during Territories, where he wanted to open up more. And so we were like, okay, this is exciting. And we filed that away for, when we knew we were going to do season 4. And so it was like, yeah, let's do it, and the episode does get into, his early days growing up as a kid in Windsor, some of the, just how poor they were and what they came from, and how he kind of how he became this sort of born hustler, if you will. And then, it was basically like, this story with what's going on in his legal troubles in the last, decade or whatever it's been. And kind of getting into that was also really compelling. So yeah, working with Abdullah, when you see him on camera and you see that forehead, I mean, no other road has been traveled like Abdullah's has.
It's an unmistakable forehead.
Yes, it is.
Every season, it seems like you guys tackle at least one just bizarre booking decision, whether it's the Montreal Screwjob or the Brawl for All. And this season, it's Bash at the Beach 2000.
Yeah.
It's such a well-treaded show, and the legal issues that from the fallout. Was
Yeah,
there a
yeah.
particular angle you wanted to tackle this one with, where it's like, okay, there's an angle to this nobody's heard yet, or was it more of a we've hit the other ones, it's time to get to this one and just document everything for record?
Well, I mean, it was basically like, I love to diversify the types of different episodes that we cover on the show. Um, I love the profile episodes, where we get into someone and we cover their career and like the themes of them as a character. But there's also these kind of event/incident based episodes, as you touched on, like Brawl for All, Montreal Screwjob, Collision in Korea. Like each season kind of has one of those episodes, and it's really fun because it gives us the opportunity to take like one moment, and to expand that one moment into a full hour, rather than do the opposite, which is actually very challenging, to kind of cut down someone's entire life story into an hour. It's tough.
Right.
So yes, but I think it was floated at one point a few years ago. I think it might have been Eric Bischoff. Somebody tipped us off, like someone on Twitter called out Bash at the Beach 2000 as a potential episode. And I think Eric chimed in and was like, that'd be interesting. What do you think? And I was like, And then, I've always been fascinated with just that kind of like, that the like Twilight, months of WCW has always been very fascinating to me. How a company went from the heights of where it was into that, and so I thought it would be an opportunity not only for us to tell that sort of event-based story, because it also does have stakes. I mean, it has the legal fallout, and it's about these, giant clashing egos, backstage drama. I love that. But I think for us, it was really the opportunity to tell one of those types of stories and to really kind of try and separate as much fact from fiction as we can, because the incidents at Bash at the Beach have been one that it's really hard. I don't think any one definitive version of that story has ever been told. And so we wanted to take on the challenge, and it's been hard. Yeah. Nothing's lining up, but we're doing our best. We're doing our best. Yeah.
That's awesome. And last thing for you, because I know you're short on time. I've listened to people review the show, and one description I heard was Vince McMahon is like the Thanos of this series, in that he's always in the background, but he's always involved. Do you think that's an apt comparison?
I sort of get it. I mean, I get the I get that. I've heard that too. Like Vince McMahon is the MCU, super villain of the dark side universe. I think honestly that is more coincidence than what anything we intended. Because when we set out to do the show, like season 1 and 2, we made each season like we were never going to get another one. We just were like, boom, boom, boom. Let's hit them all. Like a season 2 is stacked with like big stories, and I think the bigger the stories in wrestling, who's always there, like who is always, either pulling the strings, or who's in the backstage, who's a big part of this story. And Vince is always a part of it. And I think that was just kind of like, it was a little eye-opening. Like, yeah, man, Vince is the through line, but it was more just setting out to tackle the biggest stories we could possibly get access to. And then, yeah, Vince is always there, man.
Is his big controversy from last year, is that the white whale of the series now, where it's like, we got to try?
Well, I mean, look, again, anytime there's like, it's funny to see on social media. I do get a kick out of it when something controversial happens in the modern age of wrestling. You instantly get the dark side memes. That's fun. But honestly, the way that I look at these modern stories is, at least with most of the stories we've covered on the show, like there's the benefit of hindsight, or so much time has gone by. The story's done. The story's finished, quote unquote. So we can really get into it and try to unpack it. These stories that pop up, just in the last year or two, those are stories that are not really done, being told, I feel like. And so I think that, who knows? I think we might have to wait a few years, maybe even more, before we can really dive in and unpack and truly begin to understand every aspect of that story.
Gotcha. Well, guys, you can catch the season 4 premiere of Dark Side of the Ring. It's going to be on Vice May 30th. Don't you dare miss it.
Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.